I'm wrestling, do not weep for me. Celebrate what I am. Celebrate what I have been. Celebrate what I represent. And celebrate the many ways I have impacted your life. I will survive this test as I have survived others. I am forever etched into the very fiber of all mankind. The world needs me. Time is on my side. History guarantees me. I am wrestling. Do not wait for me.
What's up, everybody? This is your host, Ben Askren, as always with Tommy Rowlands. Episode number 33. We are going to talk about recruiting again. So, Tommy, what's up? I know you got some feedback from last week. Tell us about it.
Well, I thought we really touched on some good stuff. I was kind of surprised, kind of not at how many people reached out and said it was a good episode. They liked it. They also, had my back on our talent conversation.
Yeah, right.
But anyway.
On that episode, when we do that episode, I'm going to kick your ass.
Let's do it. Let's, you know what? I'll give you guys like 3 weeks lead time. You and Martin can have, pep talks with each other leading up to it. But at any rate,
I almost don't want Martin because I don't want it to be 2-on-1. That's like a handicap match. I think 1-on-1 is definitely more fair. I'm more of a straight up kind of guy. If we're taking it from two angles, I don't think you'd be able to handle that at all.
All right. Well, okay. You know what? You could pick how we compete, and I'll bring it. But at any rate, back to the recruiting. I could tell by the inflection in your voice that you were just excited to talk about that process, and I was too. And I'm glad that the listeners, at least I think that they liked it. It is July. It's the middle of the summer, and it's probably the most appropriate thing to talk about for these next few weeks. And then obviously we have the Olympic Games, but I'm excited to dive back in and cover some other things, maybe revisit a few things, but for the most part, cover some other things just relating to the recruiting landscape. And I don't know about you, but I think I can see us doing 3 episodes, honestly.
Yeah, we'll see how far we get tonight. Obviously, we have our little sheet that we have, and the farther we get, maybe we'll finish it in 2, maybe it'll go to 3. But one of the things I guess you said I was excited. Hell yeah, I'm excited. But one of the things I'm most excited about is just I feel like there's so much misinformation around the recruiting process. So for 2 guys who went through the process themselves, and then obviously spent time at major Division I universities, and then were coaches afterwards, so we spent time in the recruiting process afterwards. So, we've seen it from all angles, Tommy. And so for us to kind of dispel some of the myths and kind of tell people how it was, that made me feel good because I had a lot of parents at my club listen to it and just tell me how much they appreciated it. I know I had a couple parents, they were not from my club, but their kids went to they were seniors this year, so they're going to college. Like, oh my God, why didn't this happen 12 months ago? This would have helped out so much. So, I'm happy because we got to share some information that people don't have access to on a regular basis.
Absolutely, and we've got more to share. And I actually feel like it's not like we started this podcast to make an impact on people and really influence them. It just was more or less a way to just share our ideas. But I did get a couple reach outs from folks, and I feel like we helped them navigate the landscape a little bit better, or help them understand really how it goes down. So that's exciting.
Definitely. So let's get into what we got this week.
Yeah,
I do have a couple notes from last week. One's going to be a statement, and then the other one's going to be I'm going to make a statement, and you're probably just going to agree with it. We're going to move on, I'm guessing. So number one of the big tournaments we didn't leave in, and I got an email from this guy, was the Super 32. That's a fall tournament. It is huge. You know what? It wasn't around when you and I were coming through, which is probably why it didn't have such an impact on us. But I do know from college coaches, from athletes, that's a big tournament as far as recruiting is concerned. Do you agree?
I do agree. Obviously, yeah, it's a big one.
Okay, and then the second statement I got, and I almost felt like a dope for not bringing it up. But one thing we didn't hit on at all last week, because what we talked about is how to get recruited and what coaches are looking for. We didn't really talk about the academic front, and obviously there's all kinds of different levels there. There's all kinds of different things you can talk about. But if you're a super blue chip recruit, they're going to try to get you in no matter what. But we've seen, I could name 10. You give me 30 seconds, I can name 10 of them. Kids that were the best of the best that couldn't go D1 because they didn't have the grades. And then
Correct.
if you're a borderline kid and they see a 17 on the ACT and a 2.3, they're going to be like, do we really want this headache? Because it's going to be a headache when they get to college, right? So, do you feel that same way about the academic process, or is there anything else you want to add there?
I do. I agree with what you're saying. I think by and large, when we're talking about the blue chip of the blue chip, the coach just it's worth his time. Like, for example, if you're a blue chip, if you're Mark Hall caliber, that coach doesn't have to invest nearly the amount of time to develop you as a wrestler because you're ready. You're ready to aim fire when you show up. So if all they have to do is babysit you and make sure that you go to class and show up for the tests and get C's the whole time, then they might think the juice is worth the squeeze on that. But if you're not Mark Hall, if you're not, Logan Stieber and, those types of recruits, if you're this guy that got fourth in Fargo and then third the next year and you beat a bunch of good guys, but you also lost to a few of them, and it's kind of like nip and tuck as to whether or not you can make it at the next level, and they've got 70% to offer at 141 and you're a 41 pounder, and that guy that you've been trading wins and losses with for the past 3 years has a 3.6 and he got a 27 on the ACT, and you guys are kind of a crapshoot on wrestling. Who are they taking, Ben?
Oh, the easy academic one, no doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
So it becomes a factor. It becomes a factor, and you don't have to be a 4.0, but you need to be perceived as not a liability academically.
Yeah. Especially with the new APR stuff, and that was coming in just as kind of I was finishing my coaching career and at the Division I level. But the APR stuff is, that makes people want to take even less risks, because what the APR says is however many kids you bring in, you have to graduate a certain percentage of them, or else your team risks ineligibility at the postseason play, which is obviously a very, very big deal. It's the biggest deal in wrestling because that's, all a lot of people care about. And that has happened. I think there have been a couple teams who have been banned from postseason competition because the APRs were too low. So obviously, like you said, the headache, but now coaches are worried about the APR also, so they're even less likely to take risks than they may have been 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, and you've got coaches getting bonused based on the team's cumulative GPA, based on the improvement, based on how many scholar athletes you produced, based on how many academic all-conference athletes you produce. So they're incentivized to really, broaden that impact that you can have on the student athlete. I mean, it's a recruiting tool also to walk into next year's recruits and say, hey, our team collectively has a 2.9 GPA or 3.1. The starting lineup majors in this, that, and the other. And so if you can't contribute to that and you're not just a flat out surefire winner, it's going to influence the recruiting process in various ways. So my best advice, my most practical advice academically, is that they can't wonder if you're a liability. So do you need to be a super genius? No. Do you need to have a 4.0? No. But I would say that if you're a 3.0 and you're scoring 23, 24, 25 on the ACT, they're like, bring him in. He's not a liability. We need to find out what his goals are academically, what type of, and we need to, foster that and facilitate that goal of his so that he can speak highly of how we, create, great athletes, but also we foster, their academic achievement. So I kind of sound like a recruiter right there, but, what I'm getting at is that, the crux of the matter is you cannot be a liability. You don't have to be a super genius. If you're a 3.0 and you're getting recruited against a 4.0, I don't think they're going to take the 4.0 over the 3.0 because of the grades. What do you think, Ben?
No, I would say, you know what, in high school I was a 3.1 student. In college I was a 3.1 student. I was more focused on wrestling than anything, and, that's not something I'm proud of. That's just how it was, period.
Right.
And it worked out for me. But I always knew that like you're saying, I couldn't make school a liability. I had to take care of business. So I never had to not miss a class if I wanted to go to a tournament or whatever it was. So whenever I asked a favor in a class, I could get a favor because I was a student who showed up, who did his work, and the teacher had a little bit of faith in me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just need to be out of the crosshairs. You can't be in the fast lane on the academic, negligence, so to speak.
Sure. So let's get on to the first topic on the docket today, which would be how recruiting has changed since we were in college. And there's been a few awesome examples for just for the sake of this show that we're going to get to talk about. But Tommy, I know you've been talking to Jay Jaggers. Do you want to try to fill people in on kind of how it's changed in the last 10 years?
Well, I recruited. I was the recruiting director, the second assistant coach at Ohio State, and the recruiting, director, so to speak, from, gosh, I forget the years, but it was like 2007 to 2010, something along those lines. Okay. I forget the years. 3 years I was head of recruiting at Ohio State, so I knew at that time the NCAA rules inside and out, upside down, and
what about backwards?
And backwards, and so. So that being said, even at the time when I knew the rules better than as good as anybody in the NCAA, I still had a hard time following them all. That's how complex and sophisticated the rules are. Add another layer to that, Ben, and you know this, but I'm telling our viewers, it's ever changing. The rules.
You see how thick that damn book is?
Yeah, what made sense last year and what was completely legal last year is illegal now. And what was illegal last year and clearly a violation is now legal. So yeah, I'm now 6 years removed from knowing those rules. And so since the landscape's like that and it's ever changing all the time, I feel like I'm a little bit out of the loop. I know more than our viewers about the whole thing, but I feel like I'm a little bit out of the loop. So I talked to Jay Jaggers, who is, the recruiting director at Ohio State. He didn't share a lot with me, but he basically said, July 1st, as you and I know it, Ben, and as you and I discussed, and we kind of said this, but July 1st going into your senior year is no longer this grand reveal of who's truly interested in you. That grand reveal takes place September 1 of your junior year. So it's, 8 or 9 months prior to July 1st going into your senior year. It's September 1 because coaches at that time can don't correct. I might be wrong.
Call and text.
They can call, text, and email with juniors. I even want to say it might be on.
Pretty sure that's correct.
And it might even be unlimited. I don't even know anymore.
I think it is unlimited now. I think they put it. I remember obviously during my time, I know one of the big things they always enforced, and it was so dumb because it would be like. I'm gonna admit some violations here.
Oh boy,
here we go. Ben Asker. So I remember you could only call a kid once a week, right? Well, so if I call him on Tuesday and say the kid calls me on Friday, well, I can't call him back, right? I mean, that's freaking stupid, right? And so
it's
stupid. So I remember a handful of times I would text his coach that I knew, and say, hey, tell him to call me back again in 10 minutes because I can't call him back.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like
I did all kinds of goofy stuff.
So ridiculous. Yeah. So I don't know. Is that a violation? Probably is. Who knows?
I don't even remember if it is or not.
I know one thing that changed multiple times during is can you text? Because for a while texting was cool, and then it was completely banned, and then it came back.
Now it's
again,
back. Yeah, it's so. Anyways, you're proving the point that we're both making here that the flow of the rules going back and forth is so ever changing that if you're out for more than a year, you're out. You don't even know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
And but it's interesting because kind of common sense does not prevail in the NCAA rule book.
Never.
It's kind of like Hillary, not getting charged with her thing. I mean, it's just common sense.
Oh, geez, we're gonna go there. That is common sense, though. The funny thing about that is, the report pretty much threw under the damn bus, but then they're being a charger.
Because I think
you threw under the bus here, and then you did. I don't know.
I think the FBI got told you're not going to indict her.
Yeah.
But the FBI and the leaders in the FBI wanted to maintain their integrity in their investigation, and they wanted to say, hey, she's not going to be charged, but she's a moron. And
possibly even worse than a moron, Possibly she.
Oh man,
half of our
viewers, at least half of our viewers are mad at us right now. So we should get off.
I would think. Listen, and like people who read the headlines that say Hillary's not charged, and they see all you conservatives, you guys are a-holes because I knew Hillary wouldn't be charged. Like if you took 30 seconds to just read the general report, it pretty much says Hillary's guilty, but we're not going to charge her. I mean that's what it says. Let's just get down to it. So let's get off politics. But yeah, I agree with you, Tommy.
Anyways, common sense does not prevail. Okay. So it's impossible to follow all the rules 100% of the time. I got a funny NCAA violation story for you, though.
Uh-oh, let's go. I love violations.
It was my coach, Russ Hellickson, did not commit a violation, but he was funny about it. I was an 18-year-old freshman, and I was walking home after practice in the dark in the snow. I was like 100 yards away from our facilities.
Uphill, both ways?
No, but it was snowing. It was snowing in the dark. And I'm walking to my dorm. My dorm's like, maybe 500 yards away. And my Russ Hellickson pulls up close to me and he goes, "Hey, you want to ride home?" And I said, "Sure, Russ, that'd be great." He goes, "I can't. It's an NCAA violation." And drove away.
Please tell me you at least threw a snowball at him.
Oh, I just laughed. It was great.
Is it really a violation?
It was. I mean, it must have been at the time, but I remember it clear as day because I'm like, sure, I'll take a ride home. And he obviously,
It was a setup.
Yeah, so.
Anyways,
let's move on, but that was a fun story.
Yeah, so I mean, I think rules aside, the way that the process has changed since we were in school was it's sped up by a long shot. It's way far ahead of where it was. I mean, no one was committing as freshmen when me or you were coming through, and even committing as juniors didn't really happen, Tommy. It really didn't. I mean,
no, it didn't. It was extremely rare.
So I think that brings up a very unique set of circumstances, and I think we've kind of discussed this a little bit. But I mean, just recently in the news, you had Adam Busiello just finished his freshman year, committed to Penn State, and then you had two guys who committed early to Iowa. They now reneged their commitments. And so, the one thing I got to say about this, Tommy, and I understand where the colleges are coming from because it is a race to get people, right? But it's such a tough position because we've all seen those freshmen that are world beaters, right? They're the best of the best. And then, say, "Oh, I want to sign that guy," and they commit. And do you honor that scholarship through? Let's say a Chris Phillips, right? Would be a great example of someone he was literally the best in the country as a freshman, and then never got much better. Another one that I remember was I don't know if you remember a kid named Felipe Martinez. I think also from Ohio.
Of course.
And there's that video on Flow. He was just killing I don't remember who he was killing. He was an 8th grader though, and he was killing juniors and seniors that were ranked number 1 in the country. And then
no doubt
he kind of fizzled before he even hit his senior year in high school. So I think that makes an interesting conundrum because. Yeah, you want to get these commits, but if I was a college coach right now, I'd be like, I'm an honorable guy, and if I tell someone to do something, I want to honor that. But at the same time, you're playing Russian roulette by signing freshmen or getting them to commit.
You're playing Russian roulette by signing freshmen. I think it's just the whole thing is disappointing because, I mean, as much as I feel like I'm going to be an independent, I'm going to let my children be independent in their decisions, Ben. I am not letting my 14 or 15-year-old sons or daughters decide what college they're going to. So in the event that they're influenced by a process that is wrong, the recruiting process where there's undue pressure on them to make a commitment, I'm going to have to make that decision with them, possibly, kind of in a sick and twisted way for them.
Yeah.
Because how does a 14 or 15-year-old kid know what is best for them? They don't.
Not at all.
I don't care what anybody tells me.
On top of that, listen, not every recruiter that comes to your house, Tommy, is going to be honest and forthcoming with your son or daughter, right? There's going to be some of them that freaking sell them up the river. They'll tell them everything they want to give them a sign. I got a couple funny texts that from guys listening to the podcast who very high level Division I college wrestlers, and tell me funny stories about certain coaches that would tell them one thing, and then the next thing you know, it's something totally different, right? And so now you're talking about does a 14, 15-year-old do they know what they really want, right? And some of them
No.
do. Some of them maybe do. But then,
Well,
when you got
I
people,
can say this,
adults in their life, not being totally honest with them.
Yeah, it's a bad process. The early commitment route is a bad process. I mean, the thing is that if you're a college coach, it is your livelihood. Let's be frank
100%.
here. It's how you put food on the table for your family. So if your competition is engaging in a practice that allows them to get recruits, and you're going to be honorable and not exploit a process that is allowable and watch your competition beat you, you're not, as long as it's legal and your competition's doing it, you're going to feel compelled to do it. So I don't blame the coaches. I really don't. It's wrong.
So what about we saw
It's even more prevalent in female sports, Ben.
Is it? I don't know that.
Oh yeah, big time.
Well, I don't pay attention to female sports that much. So I have no idea. But I was saying that, what happened at Penn State, right, when they initially got Thomas Haynes to commit early, and then they recruited, and it's a heavyweight, right? And then they recruited Nevels over the top of him. So then Haynes decommits. So is that and then this obviously just happened at Iowa where they got the Mejia guy from Fresno, California, I think he's from, and then they signed Spencer Lee, who's the same grade. They're both 25-pounders. Neither one's going to get much bigger. They signed Spencer Lee over the top of him. So that's almost I feel like that's almost dishonorable because you're essentially, the kids see the writing on the wall. If Spencer Lee's coming in at your same weight and your same grade, you're like, well, I'm never going to freaking see the light of day here. I guess I'm out, right?
Well, I don't blame the kid for piecing out on Iowa. I don't know if the word dishonorable is appropriate, Ben, because you're just trying to get.
I'm asking you. What do you think?
I don't think it is dishonorable to recruit two guys at the same weight. It's kind of counterintuitive to offer scholarship money to two heavyweights that are the same age or two 25-pounders at the same age because you really can't do anything about it. One's going to be the other guy's backup. So do you really want greater than one collective scholarship occupying a weight class where people can't cut down or beef up? So that obviously, I question the strategy there, but I don't think it's dishonorable to recruit.
But what I'm saying is, listen, if you're the Iowa head coach or if you're Kale in this other situation and you sign Spencer Lee, now listen, you kind of gotta sign Spencer Lee, right? If you got the opportunity. But you already had this kid, you already talked him into coming to school. He committed to you. He showed some loyalty there. He showed some trust there. Spencer Lee can beat him. And Spencer, so the kid's never still light of day. What do you tell that kid at that point? If you truly have that kid's best interest in mind, what do you tell the kid? Go find another place? What do you tell him?
Ben, aside from it being 25 and heavyweight, that's the only part that I kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's nowhere to go.
Sure.
But so with that being said, I think you've got a good point. If it were any of the other 8 weight classes, I would say this to the kid. I'd say, we recruited you because you're talented and you're a great kid, and we believe in your ability to be successful at the next level. We are doing nothing with the scholarship offer that we offered you. It's still standing. We are still going to pour our heart and soul into you, and the chips will fall where they may. No,
sure.
Spencer Lee's spot is not guaranteed.
Sure.
And yes, he's a very good wrestler. And yeah, maybe he can beat you now. But either way, the chips will fall where they may. You'll find your way in the lineup. If you're great, you'll be great. So that's what I would say in the other 8 weight classes. But at 25 and heavyweight, you have a point. And I don't.
But even let's say at Penn State right now, where they had, and maybe we're talking a year ago, right? Because now that these guys are getting older, but where you had a Rutherford Nolf. Those dudes, they ain't going anywhere, right? And then you got a Hall and a Vincenzo Joseph coming at 65, and then you got Manville on the board, right? And that's what I'm saying. Where's Manville going to go, right? And he was, I believe, he was the earliest to commit in that.
The other thing though is
I would say the athletes just got to look out for their best interest.
They got to look out for their best interest for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't owe anybody anything. When you know, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, in some cases you do, but what I'm saying is that you owe people something when you make an agreement. But outside of that, you do what's best for you. And we don't know the recruiting process. We don't know. Cale Sanderson might have said, hey, I want you to come here and we've got 50% for you, but I want to be completely clear and transparent with you. We will find whoever we think is best for this program regardless of weight class, and it's survival of the fittest. It is straight up Darwinism here.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to roll with the punches on that. And you know, he probably wouldn't word it that way. It'd probably be said a little bit more eloquently, but that's probably the root of the pitch. I mean, I've been a part of those types of conversations before. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah,
so it depends on a lot of things. I gotta defend. I gotta defend the coaches a little bit.
Tommy.
Yep. Yeah.
Hold on. You were kind of crackling up there.
I've been losing you a little bit too, but
Really?
it just keep. Yeah, I have. Yep.
Bizarre. You sound clear right now, so just continue
Okay.
wherever you're at.
Anyways, I've got to defend the coaches a little bit there, and I know that you aren't trying to throw them on the bus, but it's a very complex and sophisticated process. Do coaches intentionally manipulate situations? Of course they do. I've seen it, and it goes on all the time. But you know, how you design your program and how you speak to your prospective recruits is how you build your program. So the
Sure.
pitch could be different depending on the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, and you know, and I remember that thought process going into Missouri is when guys come in, I don't want guys worried about where they're start. I want guys thinking about winning national titles, because if they're that good, they're going to find a place for themselves in the lineup somewhere.
It is true. You see these guys that get worried about their wrestle off. They're worried about their wrestle off. You know, who you got coming in here? You know, is that guy going to be a 33 or a 41? What are your thoughts on this? And they're all valid questions. Don't get me wrong. But then you ask them what their goals are. I want to win multiple national titles. It's like, hey, bro, if that's really the case, and I do believe you have the potential to win multiple national titles, should you really be concerned about your wrestle off? I mean, should it really even be on your radar? You got to beat America. You don't have to. You know what I mean? That's the truth. So you're right, Ben, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Tommy. When we're talking about the new trend that's happening with these kids just committing so early with the verbals, should they just take the freaking verbal out of it and just call it like, I have a crush on this person, you know? So there's no real like, I got a crush in Iowa. Maybe it's like a part of their Facebook status. Or, you know,
dude, we should get a website. We should just become a little bit more of like a mini media source and have like, instead of verbal commitments, we call them like, recruit crushes. So it's like, you know, this guy's crushing on Oklahoma State right now.
But I'm not,
That'd be awesome,
I'm not going steady yet though.
No, you're not going steady. You're just crushing. You're crushing on the Cowboys, you know, and all that stuff. I agree. I really am disappointed in the whole recruiting process. I'm disappointed that you got 14 and 15-year-old kids making adult decisions. I'm disappointed in it.
Yeah. So what? I mean, obviously, without
what I wanted to
without
say
more
about
regulation-
14 and 15-year-old kids.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, all I wanted to say is a 14 or 15-year-old kid, Ben, the most mature 14 and 15-year-old kid that I know that by that time they can know this about themselves. I want to be great. Yeah. I believe that thought process, that cognitive thought process can occur inside a 14-year-old kid. But I don't believe a 14-year-old kid can handle adult conversations about your future, ages 18 to 23, and what's best for you. And I don't think that they can handle that type of situation.
Sure, and I would tend to agree with you. So besides more regulation, which the last thing we want, Tommy, is more NCAA rules. Is there really any way you can stop this? Because my general feeling is no. It's one of those keeping up with the Joneses situation where once it goes early, it goes early. Hell, Tommy, before too long, we're gonna see some freaking middle school kid commit somewhere, and it's gonna be totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think you can stop it, especially in the information age where you can get a hold of any Tom, Dick, or Harry media outlet and release a verbal commitment and then it hits the wire and everybody else is obligated to talk about that, or their media current event area is stale. So the second somebody says I commit on Twitter, Flow Wrestling's got to talk about it. Intermat's got to talk about it. Everybody's got to talk about it, because if they don't, they're not current events. So the second some kid says I'm doing this, I mean, dude, 20 years ago, the only way a kid could announce a commitment is to call up the newspaper and say I'm doing this.
And no one's going to find out about it because it's
now
a local newspaper.
Right, and now all he's got to do is get on his smartphone. He's got 10,000 followers, and then boom, it's over.
That's
you know what I
these
mean?
Guys decommitted last night to Iowa. They got on their Twitter. They put a little message up. Done deal. Did you see? Now let me go here, because this is kind of right up the alley of what we've been talking about, and then it's going to kind of bring us into our next topic. And I don't recall the college. I want to say Texas A&M, but I could be wrong. But there was a verbal commitment situation, and the kid decided to go somewhere else, and the assistant coach from the college football team, which I think was Texas A&M, I'm not 100%, got on Twitter and blasted this kid for changing his commitment, and he said something like, "Is there no honor? That's what's wrong with these kids these days," all this stuff. But then we go back to it, like, if that coach has the opportunity to sign someone better than that kid at the position, tell me he ain't doing it. Tell me he's not doing it. So I felt like that college coach was being ridiculously judgmental. And honestly, I thought he kind of made an ass of himself, nationwide, because everyone can see social media.
Yeah, it's like, even if he's right, he shouldn't be talking like. I mean, how does that help him at all?
Doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
hey,
okay.
Question for you though, Ben.
Sure, I love questions.
So when a freshman commits, like this kid from New York committed to Penn State, what's his name? Budiello or something?
Budiello.
Yeah. Whatever.
I think it's Busiello with an S.
Yeah. So when he commits to Penn State as a freshman,
sure.
Do you feel a sense of obligation as another college coach and another Big Ten?
No.
You feel like you should be able to recruit him?
Yes, 100%.
I completely agree. I don't think there's any honor or integrity in saying, "Oh, you committed to." It's like, you know what? Where's the honor and integrity in getting a commitment out of a 14-year-old kid to begin with?
Seriously.
So it's a scrap. You made it that way because you got a commitment out of a freaking 14-year-old phenom instead of letting the process be vetted.
So, Tommy, one of the things we kind of talked about there was, coaches going behind each other's back, or if you had to give a percentage, right? I'm kind of putting a gun in your head. If you had to give a percentage, what percentage of Division I college wrestling coaches do you think use sneaky or underhanded tactics to sign recruits? Such as, I'll give you a handful. When I was going to Missouri, when I decided I was crushing on Missouri, as we like to say earlier, and the college coach said, "Who do you like?" And I would always say, I enjoyed my time there. Well, every coach would say, "You can't win there. Brian Smith never won a national title. Missouri's never had a national champion," and would be very negative talking towards that university, which kind of made me feel like they were insecure. Like, just tell me what you're good at, and tell me why I can't be successful with someone else. All the way to, I heard of, this seems so freaking bizarre to me because it was not my program, but I heard of a college coach taking a recruit like down a dark country road and like almost threatening him to commit. A threat might be a little extreme, but putting some very strong pressure on him to get him to commit before he left the recruiting trip that weekend. So what percentage of college coaches do you think use sneaky or underhanded tactics such as that?
When you say sneaky and underhanded, you mean legal but Bush League tactics, right?
Sure, or it could be lying.
I think
obviously
if
it was illegal, that'd be even more Bush League than what we're talking about.
Yeah, I would say that legal but Bush League, I would say half of the college coaches engage in that type of dialogue. And
so how many were you saying? I guess I admitted earlier to committing a recruiting violation, as stupid as that one was.
Right.
But I guess how many?
I think in terms of intentional, illegal recruiting tactics, habitually, you know what I mean? Just like that's their modus operandi. I would say 5%.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty low. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but half of them, and it's not really about being unethical. It's just they just have a terrible. I'm not saying half of them, but like they just resort to tactics that do not, my opinion, would not penetrate the mind of a kid or a parent that is really thinking clearly. To your point, it'd be like it's almost like an insecurity.
Yeah, definitely. And I will tell you, I don't want people came out of the woodwork. I think wrestlers really liked that episode we did too, because I had another guy tell me when he was assistant coaching in a smaller Division I program. He's like, you would not believe all the rules the head coach broke. It was like, I mean, he's like, he did this, he did this, he did this. This head coach is no longer coaching at the Division I level because he got shit canned for what he did. Oh God,
there you go.
But
awesome.
This guy was like, he broke so many rules. So I know we have talked about it's kind of like a good old boy system. At what point, how many rules or how bad rules do you think a coach has to break before you're going to say something?
Well, what was it like when I was a college coach, or what would I be like now if I were a college coach?
Give us both. Give us both.
Well, I was younger, and I don't know. I was more trained to think like an old school, because that's all I ever knew was the wrestling culture. You know what I mean? And I love the wrestling culture, but just the old school, honorable, let's not, say bad things or do bad things about each other, whatever. So, I heard about, illegal activity or things that shouldn't be done that people were consciously doing. And I thought that I was being a good steward of the sport by keeping my mouth shut and just whining myself or with my colleagues about, certain things, and just be like, it's better for the sport if I don't do anything about it or don't say anything, and just, it is what it is. And, the truth will set them free eventually, and the cream will rise to the top. And now that I've spent a lot of time in business, and this is not a vindictive thought process. It's just more of a matter of fact thought process, Ben. If I was back in the college landscape and I got wind of a collegiate coach continually exploiting an NCAA rule or a loophole or anything like that, and it was intentional and it was continual, I would call the guy up and say, hey, I heard you're doing this. I think you're doing it. I've spent enough time researching it. And if you keep doing it, I'm going to turn you in.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, you can't do that. It's none of it's a fact. It's like, yeah, well, I'll turn you in and they can investigate, because I'm trying to make a living here. I'm trying to win here. I'm trying to follow the rules. And if you don't want to follow them, I'll see if someone can help you follow them. And I think that happens in the big boy sports. I think in college football, there's a lot of.
What was that one lately where it was either Saban or Jim Harbaugh maybe pretty much had kissed my butt on some rule, right?
Right.
The camps rule.
Right.
They can't have camps or some bizarre. Like you said, we can't keep track of wrestling's NCAA rules. Now football, that is just that's a whole other ball game.
And let's not confuse, Ben. There's a difference between me and you thinking a rule is ridiculous and actually breaking it. So we can have a conversation about how that rule is ridiculous. It shouldn't be a rule. But by the same token, don't break it habitually, and because that's the game. The rules of the game are this: don't break those rules. So, I think that it's you hear about stuff, and it's like, man, you can't do that. That's a unique competitive advantage. That's why the rule is in place, and you can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely. So, okay. So I think we hit that topic. Our next topic that we got on the docket would be, and Tommy, I'm going to throw some people on the bus. I'm going to give some people pats on the back.
Oh, boy.
And listen, it happens. That's what we're going to do.
Here we go.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about when you were recruiting college wrestlers, and you get to pat yourself on the back a little bit too, and maybe you throw yourself under the bus. Who were some guys, and if you want me to go first, I can go first. Who were some guys that you saw and you thought, this kid's going to be very good, and he was, or maybe you thought this kid's going to be very good, and he wasn't? And who were some kids that you weren't high on and that ended up being really good?
Okay.
You want me to go first, or you want to?
Yep.
You want me to go first?
You go first, yeah.
I'll start off with one of each for myself. a kid, and I hosted this kid at the University of Missouri. Well, he's a grown up now. And I thought I had him signed, Tommy. I thought it was a freaking done deal. Had him, he stayed in my house. He didn't want to party. Season, I didn't party at all, right? And we had a great time. And this guy probably would have helped us win a national title in 2007. I think there's a good chance of that. And I was super disappointed to get him. That guy's Franklin Gomez. So
you thought he was going to be an animal?
I thought he was going to be an animal. And he was an animal at Michigan State. If you can be an animal at Michigan State, you are truly special, right?
Right.
That's the truth. There's no way around that. That's the truth.
You might have talent, even though it doesn't exist.
Well,
who knows? Yeah.
But he was a great kid. I mean, some of the things that he was a great kid. He knew what he wanted. He already knew what sacrifice was. Obviously, he's from Puerto Rico. He got recruited by Brandon, Florida. He moved all the way to Florida, left his family to kind of go pursue his wrestling dream. So he knew what sacrifice was. And so I just got a good vibe about him. And obviously, I think that played out. Obviously, he's got a world silver medal now. We didn't get him. He went to Michigan State. Obviously, had a great career. And then one bust I had was, and I thought this kid was going to be so good, Tommy. I watched his films. He wrestled his ass off. He worked hard. He was tough. He was physical. Anthony Baldessar. Do you remember him by any chance?
I rember the name. Don't remember, how he wrestled.
He was a Jersey kid. Wrestled and went to Iowa. I don't think he even started. I don't think he started, one time. So that was a kid who I thought was going to be pretty special. Turned out to be a bust.
Was he a good kid? Was he good?
I did. You know what? I talked to him on the phone twice. We had good conversations. But that was when I was at Arizona State, and he kind of said, told, hey, I'm not really interested at this point in time. So
right.
Obviously we moved on. I didn't bug him anymore. But yeah, he turned out to be not so good.
Here's a guy that I just thought was going to be great, and he ended up being great, and I think it was pretty good intuition on my end. He's a lightweight from Northwest Ohio. His name's Logan Stieber.
Oh, come on. Everyone knew Stieber was going to be good.
Oh, jeez. Oh, anyways.
How early did you know he was going to be good?
Oh, 7th, 8th grade.
Really?
Yeah. He was – because I'm an Ohioan, so I knew about him long before he even stepped on the high school scene. Same with David Taylor.
Yeah.
But
do you want to know a funny story about David Taylor? I was out at the Olympic Training Center, maybe 07 possibly. And there's a guy, you remember Doc Bennett by any chance?
Mm-hmm, of course, yeah.
A guy named Doc Bennett. And I said, Doc, who's someone coming up in this next group? And so David was, I believe, a 7th grade at this time. I said, who's someone who's going to be pretty special? He said, there's this David Taylor kid out of Ohio. Ben, I guarantee you he is going to be special. And obviously we know who David Taylor is today. So, I guess
awesome.
A lot of people were seeing that out of David for whatever reason. And I know that David did have a lot of doubters because he was never very physically imposing. He jumped a lot of weight classes, and there was always people kind of doubting him.
No doubt. I'll tell you one story, and it wasn't even like I thought this guy wasn't going to be a stud because I really thought he was going to be a stud. But I ended up putting more eggs into another guy than and making this guy I'm talking about perhaps feel like I wanted the other guy more because I kind of did at the time. You remember John Weekly?
Yeah, Ohio kid.
He was a freak.
Was he CVCA or what was he?
CVCA. He was a freak. Wrestled year round. Wrestled all the time. There was a lot of good things, and we were recruiting him and Dustin Kilgore at the same time. Now, at the time, Dustin Kilgore was great and worked hard, but he didn't do as much freestyle. He didn't do as much Fargo. He didn't do Fargo.
Sure.
But he was active in the off season, but he didn't train as much. And again, at the time, it wasn't obvious that Dustin Kilgore is an animal and John Weekly's not going to be. But we put a lot of effort into John Weekly. We put, I would say, a pretty darn good amount of effort into Kilgore. And this was at my urging. And we begged Kilgore to wait until the spring to sign because we thought at that time we would have, pretty much Ohio State's version of a full scholarship, which is, like 88% or something like that because a full scholarship is so that you don't have debt, right, Ben? So 100% covers more than not having debt. So, you find ways to save money. So anyways, long story short, we put our eggs into Weekly. He ended up working out. Kilgore, I think, was probably a little bit offended by the move, and made other decisions before we had a chance to continue to recruit him. He ended up being a 3-time All-American, NCAA champion, made the national team a few times, and Weekly did not pan out at all. So that was probably my biggest recruiting blunder, and I don't even like talking about it. I'm so mad at myself. And I don't even want it to be a negative thing about Weekly more than a miss on Kilgore, if that makes any sense.
Sure. No, that makes sense. But you want me to tell you another funny one? This isn't on my part, but another recruiting blunder.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. University of Michigan recruited me. And truth be told, if they had offered me the money, I probably would have just still went to Missouri, right?
Right.
But they offered Nick Roy, who ended up being an All-American, the money before me, right?
Right.
The following year, they offer Josh Weitzel, the money before Herbert.
Unbelievable.
Right? So I thought that was pretty funny because that was 2 in a row they kind of missed there, back to back.
That's a miss.
Miss.
That is a
Boom,
miss.
boom.
That is a miss.
So, but I was kind of in love with Missouri at that point, so I probably would have ended up going to the University of Missouri.
But still, it was the choice that they still made that choice. They didn't know that you were probably going to Missouri, so that's the point you're making.
Yeah. Okay, so one more. I want to brag one more time.
I gotta find a guy I can brag about.
Okay,
you go.
Mine is well, I got 2 more. The other one I kind of talked about last week was David Habit, who I like. I watched a film where he got his butt kicked and he just wrestled tough. I just think he's tough,
Mm-hmm.
Edinburgh was a good fit for him. But the other one was a young man named Deshaun Garrett. And
so you knew it, huh?
when I watched this film, there was a handful of qualities I really liked. Number 1, he had a great gas tank and he wrestled hard. Right? That's super important. Number 2, you could tell he moved well and could attack from different positions, which I think is big when you're going up to the college level. And number 3, he had these great tilts, and he had those kind of long hands, where he's got that good grip. So those 3 things just made me think: if he can attack from different angles, if he can ride, and tilt, and he's got a great gas tank, he's going to be a hard guy to beat. I mean, that's right. That's a great.
So where was he? Where was he even a high school kid?
Where he was? Chico, California. Same hometown as who? Tommy?
I have no idea.
The greatest quarterback in the game today, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Peyton Manning.
In your dreams. Yeah. Hey,
That's cool, man.
Let's take this back a minute. Did you notice how Peyton didn't sue Algiers?
Oh, gosh, here we go. Yeah, well.
Guilty as charged.
Gotcha. So if he doesn't feel like suing somebody, he's guilty.
Well, you're not there. You see the NFL investigating a lot of these other people that Al Jazeera named, right?
Right.
So the NFL must think that Al Jazeera has something to their report.
Oh, geez.
Okay, another bust. Another bust was the Altons. Everyone thought they were going to be good. I remember calling them and recruiting them, and I think I had one phone call, and I was pretty sure they weren't going to come to Missouri, where I was at the time. And but everybody, obviously, they were good. They were good enough to wrestle in college and high school. And sometimes, Tommy, if someone says the Altons only had one All-American between them, I'm still thinking no, they can't be right. You got to be forgetting something.
Yeah. Right.
So that one kind of to me is one of those where people forget. And I had a very educated person, Tommy, call me after the episode. I had a lot of people call me after the episode, and I realized I'm talking about all these different people that called me or texted me. This guy called me. He said, "Who is the guy you were talking about that you don't think is going to make it?" And I told him. I'm not going to say it publicly. I told the guy, and he said, "No way! You're full of crap. That guy's going to make it." And I said, "You're forgetting. We're so short-sighted." And then I listed off 10 other guys that were just surefire number ones coming out of high school. That didn't make it, and you forget how small of a percentage that is.
Yeah. Hey, we can't do this on the air because I don't feel comfortable, but I have an unbelievable record at saying who's not going to make it.
Oh, come on. We got to do it on air.
No way.
Give me one.
I got to share with you the 5 or 6 I said aren't going to make it.
Give me one.
What's that?
Just give me one.
I'm not doing it.
I mean, if we're talking about Ohio State kids, I could probably freaking
No,
guess.
I can't. I can't do it. I'm not doing
Can
it.
I guess? And you know what I'm saying?
No, you're not even allowed to guess.
How about the one guy I mentioned earlier, who's Chris Phillips?
By the way, they're not Buckeyes. No, I actually,
You think you thought he was going to make it?
yeah. I mean, when he showed up, I saw the issues, but that doesn't count once they show up.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, no, coming in, I thought a lot of him.
Speaking of Chris Phillips, one thing that and this, but I'll tell you a football story about recruiting and NFL and how they're worth billions of dollars, but sometimes I feel like they're freaking idiots.
Mm-hmm.
But when kids hit puberty and maturity earlier than other kids, like in high school wrestling, do you know how much of an advantage that is, Tommy? I mean, it is like freaking like one kid who I think he hit puberty at like 13. My brother had to wrestle him a bunch of times. Was Rocky Cozart from Florida.
Right.
I mean, that kid had a freaking beard at 14 years old. And, I mean, that's a huge advantage, right? And so,
Right.
So sometimes you look at those physical attributes and you forget that, well, the playing field's going to even. It might not even by the time they're seniors in high school, but it's going to even by the time they're seniors in college, that's for sure.
No doubt.
So one guy, college guy, kid named Josh Freeman. You know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
He was quarterback at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
And at Kansas State. And he played on, I was roommates with Chase Kaufman, who plays in the NFL, was first team All-American at Missouri, and I was roommates with Mark Ellis, who is obviously a national champion heavyweight. And those guys both played Pee Wee football with Josh Freeman, and they freaking loved Josh Freeman. They just good friends. They're tight. And I watched Josh Freeman because he was at Kansas State play against Missouri. That dude couldn't hit the freaking broadside of a barn with a football. He couldn't. He was just like, it was like, wow, this guy's just not very good at that position. That's all it was to it. No, nothing about his character, nothing. He's just not very good at what he does. Okay? And so he ends up getting drafted first round in the NFL because he's 6'6", 240, runs fast, throws it far.
Because he's talented. Got it.
Because he meets the metrics of what the NFL's looking for.
Oh, right? Okay.
That's true. Yeah, and so obviously he did not make it in the NFL. I think he was there for 3 years, had one moderately decent season, but he was out, right? Because the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a football. And that's just how it was. And then a guy like Chase Daniel, who is amazing in Missouri now, he's now been a backup quarterback in the league for, I want to say, 8 or 9 years. So he's probably not too salty because he's probably made many millions of dollars by now. But I mean, he can't get a shot in the NFL because he's 5'11", and it's kind of stupid. But that's just, I think the NFL really looks too much at physical attributes.
I do agree they look at it too much. Too much is different than they shouldn't look at it at all because they should. But
no,
yeah,
they should.
It's too much for sure. I agree.
Okay, Tommy, we are. Let's see, we're 52 minutes deep right now. We got. We were going to tell our recruiting stories and then other funny ones. That's going to take up way more than 8 minutes.
I think we should do a third episode, bro.
Third episode. So do we want to talk about anyone? And I was thinking we probably shouldn't do bust. Who's going to be a high school kid that's going to bust around? That's just too mean.
Mm-hmm. I do agree.
Okay, it's too mean. So
I think we should identify some recruits that aren't Mark Halls and say, I think he's got it.
Yeah. Okay. So you got anyone on?
I will for. Oh, you mean right now?
Yeah, right now. It's just, so someone who's going to college. Someone who's going to college right now, and he's just finally turning it up. But I had him at Funky Fresh Camp the last 4 years. Kid named Ben Darmstadt out of Ohio.
Well, I've heard good things about him.
He's headed to Cornell, but man, I'll tell you a funny story, Tommy. When I believe he was a freshman, he came up with this kid named Corey Shy, another tough kid from Ohio, and he was just this scraggly 160-pound freshman. And so we have an invite process for our Funky Fresh. We only let we try to get really good kids there. And when he showed up, I'm like, what the hell am I doing letting this kid in camp? Like how did he get in? Anyways, I think the first night he busted his eye, and it wasn't too bad. So I took him to Walgreens. We put some super glue on it. He was good to go. Rest of camp, great kid. But he's one of those kids who matured late, and he's just been getting better and better and better. He has had a insanely good junior duels, and so he's a kid that he wasn't one of those top guys. But man, if he doesn't,
how old is he again?
He's going to Cornell. I believe he's going to do a gray shirt. If he doesn't do some damage there, I will. I'll be kind of surprised.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, obviously, my scope is a little bit smaller because I'm not plugged into the high school scene like you. But I'm trying to think of some high school kids, preferably Ohio kids, because I follow it closer. Guys that I just think a lot of. I mean, I want to say Alex Marinelli, but that's not really a call out. I mean, everybody knows he's gonna be pretty good, but I think a lot of him.
Everyone knows he's gonna be a superstar.
Yeah, I can't find anybody that's like kind of out of the woodwork, but I've heard good things about the Darmstadt kid. Really good things.
He's real deal. Another kid, but this doesn't really fit the quota of not that good. Nick Reenan, I've got to work with him quite a bit at the Funky Fresh camps. I think he's going to be very good. Has a lot of those qualities that I would be looking for as a college coach. He's headed to North Carolina State now. Okay, I'm looking through. I'm looking through the 2016 rankings right now. I'm trying to pick out someone I think.
You doing Intermat or Flow?
I'm on Flow right now. You know, I'm biased. The Brian Courtney kid I think is pretty damn good, but I think everyone knows that, so I wouldn't really. I don't know that I would say that's going to be.
Well, I mean, we don't
surprise
have to
to
talk about
anybody.
kids that are like, do you know Dominic Demas?
Yeah, of course. So he's an Ohio kid. I coached him at Burnett's the one time.
Yeah, he's a big time recruit, and at least I think he is.
His brother wrestled at Ohio
But the rest
State.
of Ohio State, I think Dominic has a better physical build than Josh. I think he's going to be more able to get cagey and physical at the college scene. I think he's going to be pretty damn good.
Huh. I'm trying to.
I wish I could contribute more, to be quite honest. I'm just not as in touch as I should be on this subject. I wish I could have done some research.
Well, shoot us yours, guys. Tweet us at TRowanFunky, at Tommy Rowlands, at Ben Askren. Tweet us, who do you think is going to be pretty amazing in the next generation? And,
that's not obvious. That's not an obvious.
That's not obvious. Don't tell us freaking Mark Hall or Spencer Lee or Dayton. It's like, give me another guy he's pretty freaking good. Bo Bresky. He is a Fargo champ. He's from this area.
Where's he going?
He's going to Nebraska. But here's the thing, Tommy, that people don't realize about him, and that like has me going, holy crap, because I didn't even think about it really. Tommy, he's still 17.
I love it.
He's still 17. Do you know how big of a disadvantage that is? Obviously, he's won everything, so it's not a huge disadvantage. But, dude, there's a lot of maturing he's got left to do. When kids are that young, when they graduate high school, versus some of these kids are 19, that makes a freaking gigantic difference.
Huge, big time. I turned 18 on June 3rd, so, I mean, I wasn't as young as Bresky, but I was young, and I think it helped me. Because obviously I grew an inch in college and physically came on late. I was forced to understand technical skill development because that's all you could rely on because I didn't have the physical attributes or the physical strength, you know what I mean, that these guys have. So,
okay, well, let's see. Any closing thoughts? All right, so next week we're going to go tell our recruiting stories, and then
absolutely.
Also, I'm going to tell some funny ones of kids I hosted at the University of Missouri.
We'll get into some
good ones.
Some happy-go-lucky stuff.
And then, is anything else? Well, Fargo, we're still 2 weeks away. So I'll probably take Fargo week off of this, if that's okay with you, because I'll be busy up there.
No problem.
So we got one episode next week. That'll cut it for recruiting. And Tommy, we might have to do some kind of Olympic preview, because after I get back from Fargo, I think we're only 1 week away from Olympic.
I think we should do 2 weeks of the Olympics, man. I mean,
what are we doing? Previews, weight class previews, or what?
3 weights. Just not even previews because just talking about the American and kind of previews, but just talking about like we should do like two episodes, 3 weights, and just spend 20 minutes on each guy.
Sure, I could do that.
And their weight class and what they got to do and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that would work out great. So. Unless you got anything else, I'm good for the night.
I'm good, man. Just thank Defense Soap. Can't thank those guys enough.
All right. Have a great night, Tommy.
All right, buddy.
See ya.